Okay, so now we're looking at the two assignments for the week that are on the assignments page that are p-applet assignments. So the same assignment page as last week, where we had the first two assignments, which were car recall and the Millionaire program. So this is assignments 3 and 4, which are sketches, right, or p-applets. So if you look at the design of this necklace program, without even knowing what it does, you can say to yourself right away, hey, this is just like the program Martin's had me do in the last lesson. And you're right, it is. So I've now taught you how to create a list, how to add to the list, how to clear the list. We reviewed again how to read numbers out of boxes. So that part of it you should be okay with. But let me explain what this program does, and I'll give you a little bit of help based on what is going on here. So it says this, right? An interesting problem in the number theory is sometimes called the necklace problem. This is a problem that begins with two single-digit numbers from 1 to 9. The next number is always figured out or obtained by adding the two numbers together, dropping the tens. So if we have 8 plus 9 equals 17, we drop the 1 to get the 7. This can be done by modding the answer by 10, or we can just subtract 10 from it too. The process continues until the necklace closes, that is, it returns to the original two numbers. So to translate that, if that doesn't make as much sense to you, here's my number sequence, okay? And you'll notice that it starts with the numbers 1 and 8. So the way the pattern is generated is we add these two numbers up to get the next number, which is 9. Okay, so now these are my two numbers. So now 8 plus 9 equals 17. Because it's greater than 10, we drop the 1 and we get 7. All right, so now these are my two numbers, 9 and 7. Okay, 9 plus 7 is 16. We drop the 1, so we get 6. Now I've got the numbers 7 and 6. So you see the pattern, it just takes the most recent two numbers and it adds them together. Okay, so 7 and 6 is 13, and then we have 6 plus 3, whoops, is 9, right? So we don't need to drop 10 from that because it just works out to 9, and then 9 and 3 is 12, right? And if it's over 10, we drop the 10 and it just becomes a 2. All right, so this just keeps going until we get back to the original two numbers, 1 and 8, okay? So if you enter any two numbers between 1 and 9, you can produce this necklace pattern, all right? And basically we're just adding the numbers to the list. So you can see these numbers here are basically the same as these numbers down here, but they're just in a list instead. All right, so I give you the entire program in English, and your job is to basically translate that. All right, so without giving you all of the code, I've just made up a little Scratch program here where I can sort of help you out. Okay, so number 1, where we read in the two numbers. So I'm looking just here at the things, like the steps. So reading the two numbers from the two text boxes. Okay, so we're already doing that in the other program that we just finished. So I'm going to leave that up to you. So read in numbers. Okay. The second step is we're not going to do the necklace if either of these numbers are not between 1 and 9. Right? So if either is below 1 or above 9, an error message will appear. Okay? So we can actually use this J option pane to generate an error message. I'll actually show you the code for that in just a second. But how do we say is either number below 1 or above 9? Right? Well, we could say something like, you know, if num1 is less than 1, or num1 is greater than 9, or num2 less than 1, or num2 greater than 9. Okay, so or means any one of those things. If any one of those things is true, then we definitely want to get out of here right away. Okay, so we could have like a message box pop up. Okay, so I'm not sure if they'll work in dot show message dialog. Maybe I'll test it out and make sure we can get it to work within the confines of a p-applet. But that's basically how you do it. Then you say this, and then you say error, and then you say must be from 1 to 9. I believe that's how you do a message box dialog. Okay, so this will show up as the caption, and then this will show up as the message. Okay, and then at that point you're also going to return. Okay, and that's just a little bit of housekeeping to prevent the necklace from happening if if they don't enter two numbers that are within the bounds they should be. All right, so that's kind of your second step there. So before we get into the to the necklace, we want to remember what the first two numbers originally were, because they're going to start changing from this pattern here. So we want to continually compare them to what they used to be, and when that happens, if they're both matching, then we break out of our loop. Right? So basically, to store the two numbers, we would say something like, orig1 equals num1, and then we would also say orig2 equals num2, right? So we would do that kind of thing. That way now num1 and 2 can go on to become other numbers, but we can always look back to the originals when we need to. Okay, store the two numbers and then add them to the text area, right? So we can also do that, right? So you're going to use the append text, right, to add num1 and num2. And I know this isn't the exact code, but that gives you an idea. Okay, then we're going to start a while true loop, because we want this to keep going until until it matches the originals again. Okay, so number 5 is we're basically calculating the next number, right? So we would have another variable called nextNum, right, which equals num1 plus num2, right? Now if nextNum is over 10, then we're going to subtract 10 from it. Okay, so we're going to say something like if next num greater than 10, right, or equal to 10, I guess, greater than or equal to 10. We don't want 10, so it's always got to be single-digit numbers, right? Then we're going to say next num minus equals 10. Okay, so essentially we're saying, if the next number I get is over 10, then take 10 off of it, right? And you see that up here, like 8 plus 9 is 17. Now next num is 17, so we're going to make it 7 by taking 10 off of it. Okay, so that's part of step 5. Okay, then we're going to add it to the list, right? So then that's step number 6. So we're going to just basically have the append text for the next num. Okay, and then we're going to shift everything down one. So what used to be num2 becomes num1, and what used to be num1 becomes next num. Okay, so we're shifting everything down. Okay, so we basically say num1 now equals num2, and num2 now equals next num, right? So we had 1, 8, and that produced the 9, right? So now I want the 1 to be the 8, and I want the 8 to be the 9, right? So now this becomes num1, and this becomes num2, right? So we're saying what used to hold 1 now holds 8, and what used to hold 8 now holds 9. Then we can do this process again for the next step. Okay? And then, of course, we want to break out of this loop at some point. Okay, so now that we've got our new numbers, if num1 equals orignum and num2 equals orig2, then we've closed off our necklace, right? So then we're back to the beginning again. So you would basically just say, like, if num1 equals the original 1, and also num2 equals the original 2, then you're going to break out of the loop, right? And this isn't exact code. This is just kind of like pseudocode or fake code. Okay, so this is step number 7 here. Okay, so you've got the English instructions, you've got kind of the Java instructions, more or less, and you've got the code from the original custom for loop program that we did. And I think if you put all that together into a blender, you should get the sketch to work properly. Okay, but it should work for any 2 digits. Some of the necklaces are longer than others, some are really short, but you can try it around with any 2 numbers that work. If you can't get this J option pane to work, it's okay if you just say return at that point. Or what you could do instead is maybe have a label somewhere that says error, should be a better number. So if you can't get the message box to pop up, then find a different way to sort of tell the user that's an error. Even if you could even just print the word error in both of these 2 boxes if it's an error, if you can't get this message box to pop up. All right, but either way, that's just a small part of the program anyway. So if you can just get the heart of it done, that would be great. All right, so that's about all the help I'm going to give you with this one. I think there's enough there that you should be able to figure it out. All right, so I'll leave it at that and wish you good luck on Necklace. And in our final video, we're going to take a look at the 4-of-a-kind dice program. So that's coming up next.